Are you struggling with an inconsistent toss that's making you struggle with your serve? Well, good news. I've got a video that is going to help you. My name is Jeff Salzenstein. I'm the founder of Tennis Evolution, and I'm excited to bring you solutions today that can help you with your serve toss, one of the most common aspects of the serve that players struggle with. So let's get into this video right now. Let's take it a step further. When you toss the ball, you want to make sure that your arm stays relatively straight. Yes, it's not going to be totally locked out, but it should be straight, maybe a slight bend in the elbow. And you want to feel like when you're releasing the ball, you're releasing it because your shoulder is moving, not because you're moving your arm fast or you're flicking your wrist or you're flicking your lower arm like this. See a lot of players doing this stuff. You've got to keep your arm straight throughout when you release or when you toss the ball. So get that arm straight. Okay, keep that arm straight. Next, what the heck do you do with the ball in the palm of your hand? I see so many players tossing it with the ball in the palm of their hand. Let's get this tennis ball in the fingertips. Okay, let's get it in the fingertips. And I like to have all the fingers touching, including the pinky, touching the ball. And this is the flower blossom tip right here. The flower blossom tip. Why? Because it's like a flower is blossoming when you open up your fingers. Okay, that blossom, it's just blossoming for springtime. All right, you're opening up the fingers. You're not tossing and then keeping your fingers really close together. I want you to open up your fingers like a flower blooming. Okay, blooming flower right there, the flower blooming tip, the blooming flower tip. All right, you're going to open your fingers like that. Okay, now why is that important? I feel it gives you more feel to have it in your fingertips instead of in the palm. There's more dexterity and feel in the fingertips. Also, you want to pay attention that when you do this, can you toss the ball without any spin? Can you essentially make the ball become a knuckleball? In other words, no spin on the ball as it's released. Can you do that? Practice that even without hitting the serve. See if you can toss it with little to no spin when you toss the ball. Next, no more J tosses. Okay, this is an old school way of serving where at the beginning of the motion you turn and you do what's called a J toss, where you bring the tossing arm back like this, and then you come back around like this. It's called a J toss. I believe this is going to throw a lot of motions off. So what I like to have players do, and this is tough for a lot of players because if you don't turn, you're just going to toss it out straight in front of you. If you do turn your body, you might bring this tossing arm back like this, too far in that J toss. So what I like to see happen is when you start to turn like this, now the tossing arm is going to stop right here. I like it to stop right at the front quad here. It can go a little bit to the inside, but I like to have it stop right in line with the quad. And then it's going to go out at a 45-degree angle towards the net post. Okay, a 45-degree angle to the net post. It's not going to come back like this. It's going to come down. In my case, I keep it right here and I just go up because it's hard for me to go down and then find it. It's just that rhythm doesn't work for me. So I'm in this position. I'll hit a serve right now. Watch my tossing arm. Okay, I just keep it right here in line with my quad and I toss it. My tossing arm goes up towards the net post at a 45-degree angle. That feels really good to me. If I'm going to hit a kick serve, the tossing arm might come this way a little bit, but it's certainly not going to J back in this direction. So that is a huge focus, is to avoid the J toss. When you toss the ball, you want to make sure that you keep those fingers spread, and then notice where the palm of my hand is as I toss the ball. It starts with the palm up. I toss the ball, it's still up, and when I get to the highest point with my tossing arm, the palm is facing towards the back fence. I don't want this. This is going to restrict my ability to get my arm up higher and extend up to the ball. So when I toss the ball with my palm up like this, then I'm going to turn my palm so it faces towards the side fence. So it's palm up, and then it turns towards the side fence. You can practice this all day long. It's a rotation of the shoulder. It looks a lot easier than it is. A lot of players have limitations in their lat. They're tight in here, they're tight in their shoulder, so they're just gonna toss the ball and keep their arm bent. We want that arm straight, as I alluded to before, and we want the palm facing towards the side fence. That's gonna help with extension. That's gonna help you get up to the serve better. So this is something that I could do a better job of sooner in my motion. In the past, when I've watched videos, I still am in this position a little too much. I need to spin that tossing arm a little bit more. So watch. You see how I turned and I got the palm of my hand towards the side fence like that? That's a huge tip to help you with your extension. Just make sure you don't turn it too much and go towards the net. That's going to cause you to open up if the palm is facing the net too early. Why it could be a good thing to have a higher toss and why it could be a good thing to have a lower toss. Let's start with the higher toss first. The benefits of having a higher toss when you serve is the ability to create more topspin, because when the ball goes up, as it drops down, when the racket is coming up to the ball, it's easier to create that topspin. And so if you want to develop that kick serve, that topspin serve, and you want to increase your serve percentages, it could be a good thing for you to consider having a higher toss. Now, we don't want it to be too high because, as you know, when the toss gets too high, it can actually mess up your service rhythm. It can cause you to bend your knees too much in squat. It can cause the elbow to drop in because it has nowhere to go. It can slow the momentum of the swing down. So just be careful that your toss doesn't get too high. But again, if you want to hit more topspin, if you want to create a higher percentage serve with that topspin, toss the ball a little bit higher, okay? Give yourself that chance to let the ball come down. I'll do a little demonstration here. I probably could have actually waited a little bit longer on that one. I'll let it drop a little more. Okay, and that, again, it allows me to hit up on the serve. I'll do it one more time where I'll focus on more topspin with a higher toss. Okay, so again, take your time with the toss, let it get up, let it drop. You don't want to let it drop too much. That'll allow you to hit more topspin. Now, what about the lower toss? Okay, there are players out there that have lower tosses. Dolgopolov, the Bryan brothers. They're quick with their motion. Roscoe Tanner, probably the most famous player that had that rapid fire low toss. Now, what are the benefits of the low toss? Well, one, again, it keeps your swing moving. But probably most importantly, it allows you to hit great slice. And so if you're a slice server, if you want to hit nasty slice as your go-to serve, then you probably want to consider having a lower toss. It's really that simple. Higher toss, more topspin. Lower toss, more slice. You get to choose. How does your serve set up best? Do you want the ball to bounce up more, or do you want the ball to slide off the court? That might determine how high your toss is going to be. So consider, if you really want to develop that slice serve, then you're going to have a lower toss. It's just the basic physics of the serve that as the ball is going up, if it's not allowed to drop, you can't really hit up on it to get topspin. You basically have to come around it to get that nasty slice. And really, there is no right or wrong. What I've found in my experience is that when you have a lower toss, there's a tendency for the serve percentage to be lower. So if you want to increase your serve percentage, you might want to consider having a higher toss to let things settle, to slow things down a little bit so that you don't rush. There is a danger of having that lower toss of rushing and going too fast. If you feel like you do that in matches, you might need to slow down. So let me give you an example of what it would look like to have a lower toss a la Bob and Mike Bryan. Good, and so that really felt great coming off my racket. Really quick motion, really hurried. Now I've had experiences where I go with the quicker toss and I miss a lot of serves because I'm rushing and I don't have my timing.
So you have less room for error when you have that lower toss. But if you can find that rhythm, you can really hit some nasty slices. Just be careful again, your contact point might be a little bit lower with a lower toss, and that may cause the ball, the serve, to go long, and you might miss some serves by a foot or 2 feet. You also will notice the ball again will bounce lower once it hits the ground because it has more slice. As soon as you start tossing the ball higher, if you're able to create topspin, now we get the ball to jump up higher with more topspin and with more kick. And I'm not here again to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. In this case, should you have a higher toss? Should you have a lower toss? I am just presenting the positives and the negatives of both. They both have pros and cons, and you have to find what works for you. Now, you can also hit great slice from a higher toss. You definitely can do that. You're just going to have more of a topspin component involved with that. You want to get that ball to drop just enough so that you can hit up on it. That's where the topspin comes from. When the ball is allowed to drop a bit, you can get the topspin that you need and the power, of course. And so what happens when players have too high of a toss is I have found that it really can throw off their rhythm. So what I've seen over the years is that players, if they toss the ball too high, they might actually have to wait in the trophy position and slow down the momentum of their swing. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm all about rhythm and timing on the serve. And so that's one reason I teach the continuous swing on the serve. I like to have that arm keep moving. Well, if you do the continuous swing drill, that toss is not going to be able to drop. Now, I realize that toss right there is geared to have you hit it more at the peak. But again, that is a great drill to offset tossing too high. So you really want to keep the arm moving, and you can see that toss doesn't really have a chance to drop. Again, what happens is when the toss is way too high, when it's a skyscraper up there in the air, a lot of times players start their motion and then they have to slow down and wait in here. And you know what that does? That can cause the elbow to drop. So a lot of problems start to happen when the toss is too high. So we've got to make sure that we sync the swing up to the toss height. And as I mentioned before, if you can find the peak of the toss, if you can look up when you're hitting the ball, when you look up when you're about to hit the ball and you see it at its peak and it can drop just a little bit before you hit up on it, that's when you can get that great combination of topspin and power. Now, another problem that I've seen over the years is that players are in a pinpoint stance. And when they're in a pinpoint stance, they toss the ball and the ball comes out of their hand and they wait before they move this foot. So they toss it really high, they wait, then they move their back foot, and then they hit the ball. Again, this causes, I believe, a rhythm that doesn't really work for the player. It makes it so that the toss is not in sync with the lower body and the way that the body should work naturally. So if you want to get your toss a little bit lower and keep your pinpoint stance, I always advise you or others to make sure that you move this foot as you're tossing the ball so that you can keep everything moving. This is what Bob and Mike Bryan do really well. Now, they get their toss right at the peak. They have that faster Goran Ivanisevic type of motion where basically what they do is they toss and go, all right? And so that actually promotes more of a slice serve instead of a topspin serve. So, of course, there are different ways to skin the cat with the serve. But again, one of the biggest problems I see is that toss is just so darn high. In fact, my freshman year in college, I struggled with my serve. I had one of the worst serves in college tennis. And I remember my stepdad came to watch me play in an indoor tournament in Washington. He hadn't seen me for a while. My toss was so high, we were playing indoors. And after the match, he said, "Man, you're bringing icicles down with that toss. It's so high." And so, again, the benefits of having a really high toss is you can get that topspin on your serve. You can hit up on it. And you can also focus on slowing your rhythm down. If you feel like you rush on your serve, it's good to maybe let the toss get up a little bit more. I just get concerned when players toss the ball too high. So again, ideally, We want to focus on hitting the ball just as it's dropping. So it gets to the peak and it drops a little bit. So here's a good example of what I'm looking for. Okay, now here again is an example of the wrong way to do it. To toss it really high and wait, okay? And wait for the ball, and the ball really drops. Just look at many of the players that serve on the women's tour, especially those that have pinpoint stance, and you're going to see a really high toss with the ball dropping, really descending a lot. You'll see that in junior tennis as well. So there's a common problem that I see with players working on their wide slice, and in fact, I was giving a lesson recently to a player, and he wasn't getting a lot of slice on his serve. It wasn't carving off the court the way that it could. And all we did was adjust his toss. And so what I noticed is that his toss was too far above his head. So when he was hitting the serve, his toss was drifting this way. And when it drifts this way over the head, the ball has a tendency to dive down into the net. Okay, so when you hit this serve and the ball dives down in the net, one reason is because that toss is drifting. And you don't want that ball to drift like that. I'll show you again. The toss is going to drift over the head. And yes, you can get a little bit of slice on it, but you really only want that toss to drift if you're going to hit some topspin. And so the key is to really focus on getting that slice. And you've got to get that toss. You've got to get that toss out in front and towards the net post. Have that feeling of going, your tossing arm towards the net post. And when you make contact, you're going to be making contact above the shoulder. Maybe for some of you, even to the outside of your shoulder here. So, yes, are you going to lose topspin? Will you lose disguise? Possibly, but I'm going to have a solution for the disguise in a moment. You've got to keep that toss out in front, and you've got to pretend like you're tossing it out towards the net post over there. You can't have the toss drift over your head. That's going to limit the slice, and it's going to limit your ability to clear the net. A lot of serves dump into the net on that when you try to hit a wide slice and the ball goes above your head. So I'm going to toss it in the correct place here. And the toss felt like it was in a good spot, but I didn't get the slice that I want. So I'm going to try it again. I'm pretending to toss it out towards the net post here. And that time I exaggerated. It almost felt like I was hitting a sidearm serve. Now that's going to feel weird for some of you because you're so used to tossing the ball over the head. You actually want to get the feel that you're hitting sidearm serves. So if you have a tendency to have your toss drift over your head, like for a second serve, you can actually practice getting the toss out to the side more, almost a sidearm low toss. Then you can toss it in the normal location that I was talking about, where it's just above your shoulder, maybe outside your shoulder here. So I felt like that time I didn't get the toss enough out in front and towards that net post. So I'm going to exaggerate it this time. And that one felt really good. So I got a question from one of my clients. He's actually a parent working with his son. And he said, well, Jeff, if I have all these different tosses, you know, one that goes over my head and one to the left and one to the right, we're going to lose the disguise for my son. And I disagree, because if you're going to hit a wide slice serve and you pretend that you're tossing it out towards the net post, you can still bang this serve down the tee. So I can toss the ball out towards the net post and hit a wide slice like this. Okay, that was one of my best of the day right there. But I can use that same toss. I can do that a couple times and get my opponent to look for the wide slice, which is something I did on the tour often. I would actually use that wide serve, and then use the same toss and bust it down the tee
which I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to keep my toss in the same place. I'm going to make it look like I'm hitting a wide slice, but then I'm going to go down the tee. That felt good, but my toss drifted a little bit. So I'm going to toss it a little bit more to the left. I should say I'm going to toss a little bit more to the side. And there it was. So I got the toss in a beautiful location, out towards the net post, hit my best serve of the day. My toss was in the right location. So if your toss is not in the right spot, left to right, that's going to cause a lot of problems because you're not going to be as consistent. So you want to find that toss, pretend like you have your tossing arm goes out to the net post. You get your energy going forward, up and forward instead of falling this way. As soon as you start falling this way, the consistency goes down, the ball drops the net, and you get less slice. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson today. I got a lot of great stuff to share with you on the serve and the rest of your game. And before you go today, what I want to offer you is a free gift. The free gift is an opportunity to take your tennis to the next level, to transform your tennis. We've got a free membership, and you get 21 lessons inside this membership. You can click the link in the description below or somewhere in this video, and what you're going to do is you're going to be able to pick up this free membership with these amazing lessons, serve lessons, footwork, forehand, backhand, strategy, you name it. We've got lessons for you to take your game to the next lesson. No credit cards required, absolutely free. Click the link in the description below or somewhere in this video, and I'd love to help you take your serve and the rest of your game to the next level. I'm the serve surgeon, Jeff Salzenstein, signing off. I'm gonna go hit some more serves right now.